Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Well, I am still sick. I feel like crap. But I'm bored because I feel like I've been at the house for like days straight at this point. When I really haven't. I've been like out and kind of like doing stuff, but I just am like so bored. I just feel like I've been stuck at home because I've been sleeping a lot and stuff. And so it is currently 8:54 p.m. Alex is watching Party of Five at home. The episodes he didn't watch because he started it last night and watched, I guess, like one episode. He's watching like the other three. So I was like, I am gonna go vlog and get it done early. And then I said I might come back and do like a face mask or something tonight. My friend Valerie also asked me if I wanted to meet her at the other casino in Indianapolis, or Indiana, which is in Shelbyville, I think. She was like, well, I'm gonna go to such and such casino. And I was like, well, is that Shelbyville? Which is like the other casino, which we never go to. So since I never go there, I might meet her there tonight. We'll have to see. But, so, I honestly do not know how long I'm gonna vlog tonight because I'm just not feeling great. And, let's see, I'm kind of waiting for her to text me back because I texted her and then I said, Shelbyville? Are you going to Shelbyville or is that Shelbyville? And she didn't respond, so I called her and she didn't answer her phone, so we'll see. But she's going early, so if I go, I might go earlier, or I might just stay in and do face masks because I had fun doing that the other night. I mean, it was okay, but it was relaxing and it was kind of nice. I was feeling better earlier, and then I was laying around with Alex tonight. We were just kind of hanging out and talking and stuff, and I was showing him old Mad TV videos. We were both kind of a little sad tonight. Just got really hit hard with thinking about pee-pee and stuff, and so we were laying in bed talking about it, and it's just hard, you know, like, there's no speed or time limit, you know, on grieving, and it's just, sometimes it just blindsides us. And anyway, we were just laying in bed and we were kind of talking about pee-pee, and the dogs were being really sweet, and so we were trying to cheer each other up, and he was showing me funny videos and I was showing him these old like Mad TV videos. So anyway, what did I do? I got up today and felt like crap, and so I took the dogs out and stuff, and then I came back to bed because I was like, I actually wasn't gonna do, I was like, I just need to stay in bed all day today. I was like, I don't want to do anything, I just want to stay in bed all day today. And then I was thinking about that medicine ball that I had gotten from Starbucks like a year ago when I was sick, and because I really liked it and I really thought it helped, and so I was like, oh, well, I wish they had like another drink. Well, I wish they had another drink like that medicine ball, and then I could review that, and then it would also maybe help my cold. So I like Googled it and looked, and they had this drink. Cause I was like, I'm just gonna lay in bed today. I had all these videos I wanted to make, but I just felt like completely just not great. I felt like really tired, and so I was like, well, if maybe I can like get up and go do like a review, I'll feel like better, and then I'll be like, you know, motivated to go do something. So I looked it up, and they actually had another drink, and it was called like the Citrus Defender or the Cold Defender, I think it was called, or something, from Starbucks. It was on their official menu, but they don't have it anymore. So I ended up reviewing that, and then I ran a couple errands, and then I came home and started uploading that, and I had been uploading my vlog, and then Alex said he was coming home. So I had to go run one more errand, and I wanted to do this rant video, and at that point I felt a little bit better, like, and that was right after I drank that tea, and it was like, my nose wasn't running as much and stuff, and I felt a little bit better. So I went out and I did a rant video, and then I came home and I uploaded that, and then after that was like when I just posted it, and that was when I was hanging out with Alex at home and stuff. And So yeah, I was uploading while I was like hanging out in bed with him and stuff, and that was just kind of my day. I didn't really do a whole lot. I so very rarely get sick like this. I mean, I have days where I don't feel great and whatever, but I so very rarely feel sick like this, where I'm just like, I don't want to do anything, like, not motivated. That's, you know, I've been talking about, like, you know, that, but like where I just physically feel like I don't feel good, that I try to push myself through it. And I think sometimes maybe that's not best, that sometimes maybe I just need to be taking care of myself. But I've continued to, like, I have my water over here, I've continued to be drink my water and all that, which I think is probably helping a little bit. Alex told me he thinks I need to get some of that emergency, which is like 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and take some of that. He thinks that would help. I don't know. So we'll see. I may stop on my way home and get some of that. And then, yeah. You know what is interesting is, I was talking to Alex's mom, and she was asking me about, I think this is interesting in regards to the New Order. I used to love New Order in high school. It's one of my favorite bands. But the song called Blue Monday. So I didn't know this, and that's probably not where that song title comes from. But which is weird, because that song Blue Monday was also in that documentary Don't F With Cats. But, which was also the opening scene of that movie with Christian Bale called American Psycho, which I didn't love that movie. That's not one of my favorite movies. I don't know why I didn't like it, but I just didn't. But I do love Bret Easton Ellis, who's the author. I read his stuff back in the day, and I think like every book that he's written has been made into a movie. There's another one of his books. So Lesson Zero was one of his movies, one of his books that they made into a movie with Robert Downey Jr. and Jamie Gertz and Andrew McCarthy. I love that movie. It's so tragic, but I love it. But then there was another book that he was made into a movie, and I think it was with that James Van Der Beek, who was in Dawson's Creek. So, but Alex's mom was telling me yesterday that the third Monday in January in the I guess maybe not just the United States, but anywhere, is called Blue Monday, because maybe it's in the Midwest. I don't know. Maybe it's just specific to the Midwest. My eyes are watering so bad. Because they went and they did some like climate equation or whatever, and it's a day that is like, the climate is most apt for people feeling really sad and down that day. And so they call that day Blue Monday, which I think is interesting. I'd never heard of that before. I Googled it while I was sitting there, because she was asking me if I'd ever heard of that, and I was like, no. So anyway, yeah, that's just been kind of my day. Been listening to the Celestine Prophecy. I didn't listen to a whole lot more of it last night. I listened to, I don't know how much more I have left of it. I think I have I think I have an hour, maybe just add an hour to listen to. And I have because I think I listened to like a half an hour of it last night. I wanted to get it done last night, but I didn't finish it, so I'm gonna try to finish it tonight. And then I haven't decided if I'm gonna read The Secret or if I'm gonna carry The Secret over into February. I really don't want to carry The Secret over into February, so I'm thinking I'm gonna try to read The Secret this week. It's only 2 hours on Audible, so, and I've already started it. I'm like 20 minutes into it, so not even that long. But I feel like I need to read something just for fun. The Celestine Prophecy is great. It's really making me think about so many things. I was talking to Tanya the other night about it. Just about the point of view of how I want to live my life, and you know, just looking at like the beauty in the world and viewing things, trying to view things always from a point of love as your like energy source, which I think is great. I'm gonna blow my nose. I'm sorry, guys. I know it's probably you're so worn out with it, but It might be better than me sniffling for the next half an hour. So yeah, this car is like coming up so fast behind me. I was like, what is going on? They were like, I was afraid they were going to run into me. So yeah, it's really making me think about things. I've been wanting to get a notebook, and going in and like writing down all the things that I learned from like each book that I read. So like, but keeping it very simply, like, you know, like, so for the 4 agreements, it just being like the 4 agreements. And then from this book, it just being like the 10 insights or the 9 insights. And then from The Secret, it just being like key principles, you know, so that I could go back and like at any time just pick up the book and remember it, because the things that really stood out to me or meant something to me, you know. Because like at the time that I read the four agreements, like so much of that really resonated with me and really was so like affected me positively. But now like looking back, like I don't remember a lot of the specifics about what I read. And so I want to have it written down so I can just have, like, you know, when I'm doing my meditations or all that kind of stuff. And I still haven't started my gratitude list yet. I need to start doing my gratitude. I mean, I've been doing them with my prayers and my meditations, but I haven't been doing a written gratitude list. I haven't even made my goals for 2020 yet, which is really weird. I usually always do that. So that's like something I want to do this week sometime. You know, I guess like one of the things I've really realized in the last couple weeks, especially talking on here and stuff, is that I usually go into every year being super driven about, well, I have this that I want to get done, and I have these goals that I want to accomplish, or I want to, you know, do this, and I want to do that. And I always have like all of these goals, right? Which I think is great. And I'm a big believer in that. And maybe this is my 1 year to not do that and to just, you know, take a relaxation rest year. I don't know. Maybe it'll change throughout the year. But right now, I feel like it's kind of a year for me to just really enjoy this amazing life that I've been given, you know, and spend time with my family, my husband, my friends. And the car is just like in the halfway through the middle of the road. That was weird. And you know, just read as many books as I can, see as many shows and TV shows and movies. Like I've said, you know, I think like this might, like, as weird as that is as a goal, like I think to just really be present and enjoy my life that I've been given, I really think that that's like a huge goal of mine this year. When I think in the past, that's always kind of been the reward for achieving the goals, if that makes sense. I don't know, you know, I come from 2 parents that were very goal driven. You know, my dad has always been, I mean, even to this day, like he's always got new projects he's working on, new things he wants to do. You know, he just is constantly like, go, 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 go. My mom was very much like that too. And so I think it's just kind of like in me, you know, even when, like, it's always been kind of weird to me that, you know, before I got sober, I wasn't really motivated to do anything, you know. I never had any, like, I mean, I had things I wanted to do. I had dreams in my life, kind of, you know, of things that I'd like to do this, but they were like kind of, you know, like pipe dreams and stuff. But I wasn't like goal oriented, like driven, you know, like I look back on like high school and I think about like even my friends were like seriously seriously applying to colleges or seriously thinking about their future and having those conversations with their parents. I never had those conversations. We didn't talk about it. It wasn't like it was like a realistic kind of thing. I don't even know that I thought that far into my future. You know, and especially today, like, when I know, like, because, you know, we have so many friends of ours who their kids are, like, in high school and stuff now, and so I'll be like, oh, so what are you planning on doing next year when you graduate? Oh, well, I'm doing this and this. I applied to these schools and whatever, you know? And, so it's just strange to me that whole period, I mean, I just guess I just missed out on all of that, and I don't know, like, I don't really remember in retrospect if, like, my parents, like, did have those conversations with me and pushed it, and I just was like, yeah, whatever, I don't care, because I was just so in this, I was just out of it, you know? I just really was out of it. But I don't remember having those conversations. I don't remember, you know, my dad and I, we went and looked at some colleges, but I don't remember it being, like, realistic. We went and looked at colleges that I was never going to get into. Like, how my dad ever thought, I mean, we had looked at IU before because, you know, both my parents went to Indiana University. But I do remember my dad saying, there's no way you'll get into Indiana University. And, so then we ended up looking, I remember we went to go look at the University of Chicago campus. We walked around the campus, and I went and got a sweatshirt at all these schools. Northwestern, which is where my dad went to medical school, or did his medical residency. And then we went to DePaul in Chicago and looked at their campus and walked around that neighborhood. And then we went to the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and University of Wisconsin in Madison. Okay, I wasn't getting into any of those schools. Those are all, like, top-tier schools. There was no way I was getting into any of those schools. So I look back on that, and I think, and my dad knew that. Oh, we also looked at Lake Forest. We drove to Lake Forest because my dad had a friend that lived there, and we looked at Lake Forest. I wasn't getting into any of those schools. So I don't even know why. I don't know why we went and looked at them. I don't know if that was my dad feeling like he needed to do that. I did get waitlisted or on probation at this one school in Ohio. I don't even remember what it was. But then I got kind of serious about going to art schools. I got real serious about that, but I've talked a lot about that on here. Like fashion design schools. I don't know, my grades were just so bad, you know, I don't like... And I remember, like, applying to a couple schools, like academic schools, not fashion schools. I can remember applying to a couple academic schools and getting rejected. And I can remember, like, I can see myself standing at the mailbox getting the rejection letter. And, like, one part of me was kind of like, what are you gonna do? And the other part of me was like, it's not gonna, who cares? It doesn't matter. But I do think it's weird, you know, that my parents were so, like, academically focused and, you know, very educated people, and that we never really had those conversations. But, you know, I look back on it too, and I had struggled so hard academically. I mean, I was never that kid that was like, well, in elementary school, Peter got, like, straight A's, and then, like, in junior high, like, his grades started going downhill, or in high school, my grades were never good. I never got great grades. Like, I think to this day, people think, like, I have people, like, not so much even, like, I don't mean this from a YouTube point of view, but people in my personal life, they're always like, I bet you got great grades in high school, you're so smart. They'll always say, oh, you're so smart. I'm like, no, I wasn't. Like, it really took me a lot. I mean, I struggled really hard. And I think, like, in retrospect, I think had I been diagnosed maybe with, like, ADHD in high school, I just didn't care. I mean, I just did not care about it. I wasn't focused. You know, I will tell you what I did was I kept these notebooks, and I would write these books that, about my friends and I mean, and these, I mean, I'm talking like 6, 7, 8 notebooks of like the same book. And I would sit in class. I can remember this one government class that I had. And this teacher would be like lecturing. And I can remember getting the test and having like absolutely no idea anything that was on this test. I mean, you couldn't have asked, I mean, if you asked me like, what are you studying in government or history or whatever, I think it was history maybe, not even government. Like, what are you studying? I would have been like, I have no clue. Because I had no clue, you know? I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm studying, you know? Like, what, if you had said like, France, 1400s, or Civil War, I wouldn't have known. Like, I seriously wouldn't have known. And I look back on that, it's just like, I just daydreamed my time, like my entire, I think part of it too is that like I really just like was afraid to grow up and become an adult. Like, I just knew that I wasn't like gonna be very successful at that. And nobody was kind of like preparing me for it either. Oh, so what I was gonna say, what is so weird about that though is that when I got sober, it's like, I feel like what my parents, you know, because my parents were very much, both of them, like go-getters from, like, as adults. Like, you know, my dad was the first one to go to college. He was like, you know, like, because I can remember I said something to him at one point. He was like, you think Grandma and Grandpa had any idea how to apply to colleges? They had no clue. He was like, I did all of that on my own. And, you know, everything that my dad did, he learned on his own. And my mom was the exact same way. And so, except for that she had my Aunt Kathy that went ahead of her, but, you know, she did the same thing. So, has Valerie called me? No. Is my phone not charging? What is going on? Yeah, it is. So, you know, she had my aunt that went ahead of her. Is that, I'm like looking in this paint store and it looks like they have like milk and Coke in the back and like a refrigerator. I'm like, is that for real? That can't be. No. Do you remember bait and tackle stores? I never see bait and tackle stores anymore. But anyway, so I don't know, you know, like I look back on that, I think we hand feed people stuff a lot today. I think my parents just assumed I would figure it out on my own, and I didn't, and I didn't care, and I really didn't, you know. But what's weird is that as soon as I got sober, and I got a little bit of sobriety under my belt, like I can remember like when I wanted to work in treatment, like I went to my counselor that I had and I said, you know, like, this is what I want to do. And like, nobody held my hand doing that. Like, she didn't, like, you know, no parent or friend like walked me in there. Like, I knew enough to go in there and ask her, you know, and like, then, you know, I applied for my master's degree and, you know, like I went back to school and got serious about it. And I was very serious about my job. I can remember like, I was so serious about my job, okay, so, you know, I worked there for 13 years. I almost never called in sick, like never. And I can remember my supervisor would say to me, you know, like, because it changed over to accrued sick time. And she was like, you know, you're not using any of your sick time. And I was like, well, if I'm not sick, I'm not gonna call in sick, you know? And, that first year or two though, like when I wasn't a counselor, when I was just like a tech on the unit and stuff like that, like if it was 10 o'clock and and third shift called in sick and they needed somebody to call in to work, like if I got called, I was there. Like every time I was called to come in and fill a shift, I would go. And, I felt so driven. It stopped. I felt so driven. I felt like I had a purpose. I just felt driven, you know? And I had never been like that before, you know? Like, I got so many compliments from my supervisor through the years of like, you know, you never call in sick and your work ethic is so strong and whatever. And to be honest with you, from somebody that had never really worked, I had never worked in my life, you know, before. I don't know where that came from. And it just must have come, like my mother and my father were very similar to that. And my dad is definitely that. And I don't know, I just must have gotten that from him somehow, you know? And I guess that shows how much drugs and alcohol really can affect your thinking on a daily basis. But you know, like even in high school it wasn't like I was completely blitzed out of my mind 24 hours a day. That just is not the case. I mean, it just isn't. You know, I look back on high school and high school I used, but it was nothing like after I got out of high school. After I got out of high school and I was in college, I would say then it was like almost a daily thing. But before then, it wasn't. I mean, it would be on the weekends, it would be some evenings, but I mean, by and large, I was also like functioning, you know? So the fact that I never thought about my future when I was in high school is just bizarre to me. I don't know, it's like weird. I look back on it. I mean, it's been so long now, right? But like, I look back on it and I think, I mean, it's crazy to me even now that, like, I'm sure it's crazy to other people too, that I actually got up and was at school on time, you know, on time. Now, I missed a lot of school. I had my mom call me in sick for school a lot, but I didn't, like, I skipped sometimes with my friends, but not tons. And the other thing that's really weird about it is, my other friends in high school that were probably more into the whole like drug scene than I was, well, they definitely were more into the drug scene than I was, like smoking weed and acid and all that kind of stuff. They got like all of my friends in high school, like almost all of my friends in high school got straight A's. And I think like by association, people thought I got good grades. Who was texting me? Which is not the case. I didn't. I remember my friend, her dad was my science teacher, and he was so nice to me. And I think like she and I had had a conversation because I did really well in his class, and it wasn't because he was my teacher, it just was I really enjoyed his class. And I was like, I really took his class seriously, and it was a botany class. And I remember she and I talking about it, and she was like, but you always get, I got like a B+ in his class, and I was so proud of it, a B or a B+ in his class. And she's like, but you always get good grades. And I was like, no, I don't. Like, that's like the best grade I've gotten in any class. And I had to really try in that class too. It wasn't like it just came naturally to me, you know? Like, I had to try so hard in these classes. I just was not a good student. And I really think also, like, it was the way that it was proposed to me, you know, like, I didn't really have anybody that was pulling me aside. I went to too big of a high school. I mean, that's number one for me. I definitely, had attention. I definitely had ADHD in high school. And I still do. And I think, but like, I feel like I know how to, unmedicated manage it today. And like use it as a strength to like multitask and things like that. I know it doesn't seem like that in videos when I'm all over the place, but like in my real life, like getting stuff done, I feel like I can use it as a strength. I've read books on how to turn it into a strength and things like that. But I think had I gone to, my parents really argued over this idea of me going to a private school. Like my mom wanted me to go to a private school, and my dad was like, no, we went to public schools. We did just fine going to public schools. Peter doesn't need to go to a private school. So I didn't go to a private school. And I think had I gone to a private school where somebody was watching closely what I was doing and seeing that my grades weren't good. Because the other thing that was interesting was that my parents were really involved in my school. So like, I mean, for like me, like parent-teacher meetings and stuff, they always showed up. So I don't know why there was no discussion about my grades. I do remember there being discussions about math classes and having to get tutors and stuff, which I hated and I thought was stupid and it didn't help. But I don't know. I've wondered through the years, like, had I gone to a smaller school, had I maybe gotten the academic attention that I needed, and, maybe gotten diagnosed with something that would have helped me appropriately back then, I wonder to myself sometimes, like, would my entire life have been different? Like, would I have ended up falling down this rabbit hole of addiction? Or would that have happened later? Because I do believe that I am inherently born an addict and an alcoholic. Just me. I don't believe everybody is, but I believe I am. You know, would I have ended up going to some college campus? Would I have, you know, would that have affected like what I did with the rest of my life? I wonder, you know, like, I mean, me getting sober directly had an effect on me wanting to work in a treatment facility. I mean, that was what spurred me wanting to do that. I would never have had that a dream if I had never gone through it myself, you know? So, I don't know. It's weird. Do you ever think about that? Do you ever think about, like, where you would have ended up if, like, circumstances had been different? Let's see what she texted me. I do remember, she's going to Shelbyville. I do remember my stepmom being concerned about my grades and saying stuff to me. And I can remember her calling my mom a couple times and them talking about it. Because my mom and my stepmom, like, my dad was really busy when I was in high school. So my mom and my stepmom, like, they coordinated rides and they talked a lot about, like, you know, like where I was going to be on what weekends and whatever. And I do remember her because my stepmom was somebody that she was very serious about grades and things like that too. Very smart. And I remember her being, like, concerned about my grades. Like, to the point of when I would come over there, like, you need to sit down and do your homework. Like, we're not going to be on the phone. We're going to be, and it caused, like, a rift between us during that point. Because she was literally the only one that would do that, you know? My mom had said to me when I was younger, she would say, it would piss her off. She'd say, you know, you go over to your dad's house on the weekend and you tell him that you have no homework, because this was before they were communicating real well. This was when I was younger, like early junior high. She'd say, you go over to your dad's house and, you know, you say you have no homework all weekend long, and then you just, like, hang out with your dad and you do this and you play video games and you read books and you eat, you know, whatever you want to eat. And then you come home on Sunday, and at 8 o'clock after dinner, I'm like, do you have any homework? And you're like, yeah, I have this paper I have to write. And she's like, that's not fair to me. I don't want to be the bad mom that is the one, you know, making you do stuff that you don't want to do, and then dad gets to be the fun dad. She's like, that's not fair. And I remember they had a lot of conversations about that. And so, you know, that kind of stuff wouldn't happen, I don't think, today, because with, like, the whole idea of email, I think when, you know, you have divorced families and whatever, I think a lot of, like, the parents, like, both parents get the email about, like, the homework, and so there's something going on in the school, like, both parents get the email about that and whatever, but, like, there was not that kind of communication back in the day. And my dad was really involved in my school. Like, he was really involved, you know, but we didn't have, like, teachers as involved as we did back then. You know, I also kind of wonder, too, like, if we did, I don't know, like, so many of my teachers saw what happened with me. You know, for a long time, I had a lot of, true anger about this, because I saw so many of my teachers turn a blind eye to the bullying that I went through. And I mean, I'm not talking about just under their breath somebody calling me a name. I'm talking about blatant bullying, okay? Like, me walking into a classroom, the teacher standing at the desk, and somebody just slamming me into the wall, you know? Or somebody pushing my stuff all off my desk. Or, you know, somebody yelling horrible things about me out loud in class. Or on the board, like, her going to, I mean, I can see this in my head, her going to, like, put up the lesson plan for the week or whatever, and it say, like, Peter Monn is a, you know, FA for a good time, call with my number or something, and I hadn't seen it on there, and then she'd just stand there and erase it, and wouldn't say anything, wouldn't address it, would just let it happen. I mean, that happened. I have to be honest, like, the male teachers that I had, and, like, the football coach who was my gym teacher, were 100 times more protective of me than any of the female teachers that I had in school, period, end of story. I think they were afraid. I think they didn't know how to deal with it. I think they didn't have the education of how to deal with bullying when I was going into school. I think they had nobody backing them up. You know, I would stand up for myself on the rare occasions that I did, and I would get sent to the dean's office, and it was always me that was in trouble, you know, and it was me instigating things, and on and on and on. And it just was ridiculous. I look back on all of that, and I think the school systems have everything so skewed, you know, and now we have these zero tolerance, anti-bullying situations, but I'd really like to see how that is applied in schools. I really would like to see how that goes, because the other thing for me was, I wasn't telling on anybody, because if I told on somebody, it would just make it 100 times worse. And you know, when we see that in movies and stuff like that, in made-for-TV movies, well, that's the truth. I mean, it really, really is. If I was going to tell on somebody, it was just going to make it 100 times worse on me. Because then behind the scenes at 3:10, you know, when the school let out, they were going to come for me. No school official was going to be protecting me. No school official was going to be making sure that I made it home, or, you know, that my, like, parents knew what was going on. None of that was occurring. Nobody was, I've never seen that house back there. That was a pretty house. Nobody was making sure, you know, that my well-being was okay. And then my parents didn't know that it was going on. I don't know why. I don't know if no teachers ever said anything to them. But I mean, I've had conversations with my mom and my dad about that since then. My mom had no clue. She said no teacher ever said it to me. Not once. She said, Peter, not one time in elementary, junior high, or high school, not one teacher said anything to me about how you were treated in the classroom. My dad said the same thing. And I remember I told my dad, well, there was 2 incidences in high school. One was with a teacher and the other one was with a car, and my dad did come to the school and he was not happy about it. And they kind of like screwed up. Like they didn't screw up. Somebody took lipstick to my car and wrote the F word all over it with lipstick, which, if you know, it's really hard to get lipstick off the car. And they did some other stuff to my car. And my dad came and he drove, and the principal's office window was like right in front of the school. And it's different now, they've redone the school. But he drove and he parked right in front of the, like, on the grass, like a foot, 2 feet. It was like on this kind of like hilltop thing from where the principal's window was. And like the principal was like really like not happy with my dad or something, and said something about it. And my dad was like, well, when my kid's car is safe, then I'll park it in a public parking space or something. My dad was, you don't really F with my dad, you just don't. And there was another incident, and my dad was just not, I mean, he always had my back. So I think my dad might have kind of knew that something was, I mean, my dad knew I was effeminate. My dad has always said, you know, like, I knew you were going to be gay, but like my mom had no clue. I mean, like she said she had no clue till the day she died. She'd be like, I just don't know how people guess that you're gay. I'm like, mother, come on now. But my dad wasn't that, you know, like he saw it, he got it. So I think for him, you know, it was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why they weren't. Maybe he didn't think it was as bad. Maybe he didn't really know. I mean, you know, he saw that I had friends, and then I, like, my girlfriends that I hung out with and stuff like that, and then I was, like, doing stuff in the evenings. Maybe he thought I was fine. I don't know. I do remember that I was in counseling, though, all through high school. These different counselors that were just a waste of time. This one counselor that I went to, I really actually liked her, but we just talked about all kinds of random stuff. And then I remember this one appointment. She said to me, like, she was walking me out the door, and she goes, I think that next week when you come, we're going to address your sexuality. And I looked at her and I go, okay, like that or something. And we walked out, and my dad was picking me up. I can't remember how she said it. She was really nice, though. And so I remember, like, I walked out and I got in my dad's car, and he was like, said something about next week or whatever. And I said, she's a bitch. I'm never going back to her again. And my parents would never force me with stuff like that, so I didn't go back. And I remember years later when I came out to my dad, at some point, I don't remember, I told him that story about that. He goes, I knew. He was like, you came out. He was like, I knew something had happened, but I couldn't put my finger on it that day. He goes, that was so weird. He goes, I knew something had happened. He was like, but I had no clue what it was. I was like, well, that was what it was. She knew what I needed to talk about. And, you know, I look back on that and I think, God, I wonder if I had. my parents would have totally accepted me and loved me. And that was when, I mean, I wasn't driving, so I was 15 at the time. So if I had come out to my parents when I was 15 and, you know, like, I don't know, like in the 90s, well, I wasn't even 90, I was the late 80s. I don't know how that would have been accepted. You know, would I have been more okay? Would I have my ass beat? If I had come out in high school, people would have beat my ass, period, end of story. It wouldn't have mattered how accepting the world was. But I mean, my family was going to accept me no matter what. They were going to love me. I knew they were. You know, the dad and my mom's friends and family, they were going to love me. My whole family. There was not one, I have never once, okay? Never once. You know, my dad's family, they're very religious, but they're not so much anymore. But like when they were growing up, they were very religious. But they're small town people, you know? My mom had one sister. Nobody in my family, not one person, has ever said anything wrong to me. Never. Never. My dad's side of his family, like, you know, we could only invite 30 people to our wedding because after that it was like for every 5, it like went up like so much money. And so we couldn't have a lot of people. My aunts and uncles on my dad's side of the family who have loved me so much. I'm the youngest grandchild. So, you know, like they like really wanted to come to the wedding, like Alex and I's wedding, and they like love Alex, you know, as well. And, I don't know, I just think about that, you know, I wonder if I had come, I mean, I believe that I had to come out when I came out the way that I did, but I sometimes wonder, like, if I had come out earlier, like, what that would have looked like, how would that have looked differently, you know what I mean, like, would I have, I don't know, what if I had gone back that next week and said to her, okay, let's talk about it. But I can't go back in time. You know, I listened to, like, speaker leads of people telling their stories, you know, from 12-step programs. And when they got sober and they were, like, you know, 17, 16, and they're my age. And I think, God, I wish I had gotten sober then. Like, the opportunities were presented to me. I wish I had gotten sober then, you know? But I didn't. And I do believe that on this journey, you know, like this life journey, that like things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. I don't believe that I think that they happen the way that they're supposed to happen. I don't think, you know, like, I don't think that it's real super healthy for me to go and be like, well, what would have happened if this, I mean, I do wonder about those things, but I can't go back and change things. So what's the point in looking at it and being like, oh, well, this or that? You know what I mean? Like, sure, I wonder, but what's the point? Wonder that. It always reminds me of that that movie Prince of Tides, you know, with, I can't think of its name, but Barbara Streisand's in it. And he's driving over the bridge at the end of it, and he says, if for every man there were two lives. And you know, think about that with choices that I've made in my life, you know, like going away to college, staying here, you know, getting sober when I got sober. I do wonder a lot, like, if I hadn't gotten sober then, what if I'd be even alive by now? I mean, and what's so crazy is that when I had that conversation with my dad not too long ago, you know, he said, well, I guess that was the summer for my birthday, so it was quite a while ago. He said, oh, you'd be dead. I mean, not even a thought, just like, oh, you'd be dead. And I go, do you really think so? Oh, yeah, you'd be dead. I think sometimes, especially with alcoholics and addicts, we don't see how bad it was for us. I mean, even in retrospect, but other people that lived through it with us, they really do, you know? They see how, like, just really drastic and off the deep end it was. I think about like how much my life has changed since I, went on that first date with my husband, which I had canceled twice before, and it's like over 11 years together, 8 years married, and all of the things that we've experienced together, and our families that we've shared, and our friends that we've shared, and Pee-Pee, and Boo and Tucker, and the house, and, I look at that and I think, had I just canceled that date again and not gone, like where would I be right now? What would my life look like? Would I be, in Denver like I've been planning on doing? What would my life look like? It's so crazy when I think that way, like a whole life that I wouldn't have had because I almost canceled a date. The Celestine prophecy talks a lot about like when you get intuition and gut feelings about things you're supposed to do in your life, and like I live my life a lot that way, like I really think through like something will be presented to me and I'll be like, okay, like how strongly do I feel about this, that I want to do this, or that I should do this or whatever. And it's so interesting when it's talking in there about like coincidences happening leading up to like making like, doing these things or doing those things in your life, which are supposed to happen. And I don't know, it's just crazy. I think back about, I guess I really had never thought about it that way. Like, like if I had canceled that date with Alex, which I can literally remember being on the phone with my friend that day, and I was like, I don't want to go. I canceled twice before. I just didn't really feel like I was in a place where I wanted to be in a relationship, and which is so weird because I knew within like 2 seconds I was screwed. And when I saw him, I just was like, oh my God, he's so cute, I like him. And it was difficult, like our relationship was difficult from the beginning. It's easy now, but at that first year was difficult, and then we've had some difficult times, and which I've shared a lot about on here. And everything about our lives was completely different. Like when we got together, like I was 36, he was 24. He was just finishing up school. I was finishing up my career, and I was sober. He was at the end. Culturally, our lives looked very different. It's just on and on and on. There were all of these differences. And I think, I was somebody that was always like, well, opposites attract. Well, I don't know if I believe that today. I don't know that I think like, yes, I think that opposites do attract, but I think sometimes it makes it difficult too. It doesn't mean that just because opposites attract. I think we're interested in what we don't know, or we're interested in something that is very similar to what we know, like almost identical. And I think you either see couples that are completely opposite from each other or completely identical to each other. I think those are a lot of the couples that I see out there, right? But I think that those differences with us, because we each were so like stood our ground on the things that made us different, that it was really a struggle when we were first together, that first year. And then we kind of started getting used to each other and our differences. And then we like accepted it and fell in love with our differences. But I can remember that first phone call, or I can remember that phone call calling my friend and being like, I don't even want to go on this date. And he was like, just go. He was like, either you make a friend, or he was like, you make a new friend. He goes, worst case scenario, you make a new friend. Or best case scenario, you make a new friend. Worst case scenario, you get the date over with and you haven't hurt this guy's feelings. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I had no plan. We didn't go to anywhere real fancy. We went to this Bravo Italian restaurant here in town, which I picked him out. I was like, where do you want to go to dinner? And he was like, I don't care. And I was like, and I didn't even know, where to take him or whatever. And I was like, where do you want to go? And he was like, Bravo. And so Alex had another date planned for the next night. He was dating around, and he ended up canceling that day because we ended up hanging out the next night. But I said to my friend, I said, I don't even want to go on this date. And he said that to me, and I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, I'll just go. It's not that big of a deal. And then look, 11 and a half years later, here we are. I never knew that would happen. I never knew that would happen. If you had told me If you had shown me Alex 12 years ago and said, this is who you will be with 12 years from now, and this is going to be your life, this is what your life, I would have been like, you're crazy. I would have been like, no. Nope, you're crazy. That's not what my life is going to look like. We won't be, I don't even know who this person is. Like, you know. And now I can't imagine my life without him. I really can't. Is that my phone? No. Oh. Life's weird like that, isn't it? But good like that too, you know? It's been a good 12 years. I don't think everything is supposed to be perfect, you know? Like, I just guess I kind of accepted that along the way. I think that is like, you know, one of the things, I think there's these things in life that, like, that are presented to you, and once you accept them, it just kind of like makes life a lot easier, you know? And, I think like one of them I accepted along the way that is like in life, like tragic, like stuff is going to happen, but in life also, like life's not going to be perfect. You know, like there's no like, I never went into any relationship thinking it's going to look like perfection across the board. Like there's never going to be a fight. There's never going to be this. And so where friends of mine, you know, would be like, in their relationship, they'd be like, I just don't know what's going on. Like, you know, like, we fought last Friday night. Now I'm not sure if he loves me or not. I just kind of assumed that was part of it. You know what I mean? And, in fact, I remember my mom and I watching an interview. I think it was my mom and I, somebody and I watching an interview with Demi Moore. And I used to call her Demi Moore, but I guess it's Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher. And they were like, we never argue. Like, we're so connected. We've never had one argument in our entire relationship. And whoever I was like with, I was like, they're going to break up. And I think it was my mom. She's like, why do you say that? And I was like, because no couple doesn't argue. Like, that's weird. Like, couples argue. There's going to be things that you disagree on. I think the difference is, at some point you understand that that goes with the territory. You know, and it's about stopping the argument and not allowing the argument to take over the relationship. It's about, I don't know if you've ever had this argument. If you're in a relationship, you've had this argument. I don't even need to ask. But have you ever had the argument where you're having an argument and then at some point you stop having the argument and the argument's having you? And what I mean by that is, somebody said that to me years ago, and I just think it's such a true statement. Where it's like, okay, so you're in a pissy mood and your partner's in a pissy mood and you come home and it's like, well, you didn't take the trash out. Well, I didn't know I was supposed to take the trash out. And you're like, ugh, whatever, I took the trash out, don't even worry about it. And then you're like, you're pissed and they're pissed, right? And you're kind of just like storming around the house and you're like, well, do you want to go get something for dinner? Like maybe they're trying to be nice or whatever. And then you're like, well, dinner's not gonna make itself. And then they're like, I didn't say dinner was gonna make itself. And then you're like, well, where do you want to go to dinner? I don't care. And then you're thinking, why are we even going to dinner? We're gonna spend all this money on dinner. We're just gonna sit there in silence or fight with each other. This is stupid, right? And you're like, I don't even want to go to dinner. And then all of a sudden it's like 3 hours later and you're still fighting and you're like looking at the person and you're like, why are we even together? We're not even happy. Okay, like this is the point where this argument has started over taking the trash out, and now it's let's break up. Okay, that is where you stopped having the fight and the fight is having you. We did that a lot in our first year. We did that a lot in our second year. That is not healthy. That is not healthy at all, okay? You have to stop the fight at some point. Because really it's about, you know, people's moods that day and what's going on. It's like you gotta stop having the fight at some point and just stop letting it wreck you, you know what I mean? And you gotta be able to, I don't know, start recognizing that that's not the language that you want to speak with each other. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think you really do. Now Alex and I don't argue at all, and we're like, Ashton could know. We argue. We just don't argue the way that we used to, you know? Like, we kind of nip it in the bud rather quickly, or like one of us will say something to the other one, like, what are you really trying to say? You know? And because we've learned a lot of like communication skills with like counseling, and we don't say like phony stuff, but like if like, let's just say, like, if, you know, like, Alex is, like, not in the greatest of moods or whatever, and I can tell he's not, I'll be like, babe, if you want me to do everything tonight, I can do that. But if, like, you're just in a bad mood, that's one thing. But, like, and he'll be like, yeah, I'm just in a bad mood. It's just been a long day. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. And I'm like, that's cool, honey. You know, like, what's going on? And then we'll sit down and talk. So we don't get in, like, a whole lot of that anymore. You know what I mean? I think we also, you know, like, it was really big for us to see that we're on the same team. Like, he and I are on the same team. We're not playing against each other. And I think that's really important when you see your relationship from that point of view. You know, that, like, we're not, it's not me against you, we're not competing, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, we don't need to play those games. You're my partner, I'm your partner, we're fighting for each other. We're not fighting against each other. This vlog has been kind of all over the place tonight, hasn't it? Crazy. I get sick in January, and then I'll get over it, and then by March, my spring allergies will be back, and I'll be sniffling, and my nose will be running again, and oh, life's just horrible, isn't it? No, life's good. I think I'm gonna go up to this village pantry and use the restroom though, and turn around and go home. And I gotta figure out if I'm gonna do face masks or go with Valerie. So I think I'm gonna end this now. So I hope you guys are having an amazing, what is today? I hope you're having I hope you're having an amazing, it's hard to speak when you're sick. I hope you're having an amazing Tuesday, unless you have other plans. But like I always say, don't have other plans. Make the most of your day. Do something really fun today. Rest, relax. After you get off work, take a bath. Do a face mask. Watch a TV show. What happens when there's no more TVs? What will we call them anymore? A tablet show? A phone show? Will the language change when the devices are gone? Anyway, just do something today that will make you happy. Do something today that you are putting some stock in yourself down the road, and then when you look back on 5 years, 10 years down the road, you'll be really happy that you did this today. And for yourself, anything. Starting a book, maybe. And if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. Make sure that you look at yourself in the mirror every single day and you do your daily affirmations and you say, I love you. You are important. You matter. You are worthy. You are worth it. You are beautiful. Today is going to be a great day, and 2020 is your year. And really good things are coming your way. And most importantly, make sure that you do some random acts of kindness today, or even just one, and that you randomly, another random act, randomly pick somebody just to let them know how much they mean to you and how important they are to you, and just call them up and say, hey, I was thinking of you. You doing okay? I love you. Thank you for being in my life. And I love you guys. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for watching my vlogs every single day, or when you do, and I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Look at that. Bye. Love ya.